everybody. This is Shanna here.
And this is Atlas. Welcome to Cousin
Osmosis.
That was good. I like to say it at the same time.
It was very good. We're just so in sync, being cousins and all, with our osmosis.
That's good. Osmosis Jones is not the movie we're talking about today, but that is a movie
that we will probably watch at some point. Wait, or is it a TV show?
It's a movie.
Oh, it's a movie. I've never seen Osmosis Jones.
Me neither.
We should watch it!
That's a good one.
That's not this episode, though.
No.
So this episode, I am bringing a movie for Atlas to watch, and the movie that I have brought is Anastasia.
Yes. I have never seen Anastasia.
And I didn't really see it as a child and saw it more as like a teenager, but I very much love the movie. And so I'm going to ask Atlas what he knows about the movie.
Okay. Is Anastasia the one that's all music?
It's not all music.
But it's a lot of music?
It is a musical, like...
Okay.
It's basically one of the films that people describe as like a Disney film that's not Disney. Like the Swan Princess.
Okay, so this isn't the... Okay, because I definitely get this confused with the one that's all music. That is, there's like a bit where there's like a volcano with like an evil man in it, and it's the one with the Mickey and the...
Fantasia!
Fantasia, yeah,
yes,
I definitely get those confused. I definitely got those very confused as a child, but I was pretty sure that was not Anastasia. Anastasia, I think, is maybe about a princess or a prince, and is in Russia, maybe?
So I want you to guess the plot.
Yes, I think that's good. I think that I'm gonna go with a rich lady. I don't think she's a princess. I think she's a rich lady, and I think there's a scoundrel man who shows up. And I know that there's a scene where they're in a cart that's pulled by horses.
As opposed to those carts pulled by zebras.
Yes, or elephants, or other human beings. It's
No!
It's a cart pulled by horses, and I think I've seen GIFs, and that is GIF, not GIF. I've seen GIFs, I think, of a lady with red hair and like a scoundrelly boy who he's got like floppy bits. I did a hand gesture. He's got like
the 90s hair. The 90s
yes,
boy band hair.
90s boy band hair. Thank you. It's got like the floppy bangs that are like separated, but they are still bangs. And I think they're keeping score about quick-wittedness. I believe that happens at some point. I am going to guess it is a romance thing because it is a Disney movie.
It's actually not.
It's not a romance.
It's not a Disney movie.
Oh yeah,
I'm not going to tell you anything about the plot.
It's like a Disney movie is what I meant. It's like a Disney-esque movie. Yeah. So I'm going to guess there's a romance thing. I think that she is like a rich lady who is like more down to earth and like the standard trope of like a rich daughter who like is like knowledgeable about the world and like wants to get out there. Kind of like Jasmine sort of trope. I think he's like a scoundrelly boy, and I think they meet happenstancely.
Happenstancely?
Yeah, happenstancely. Serendipitously, if you prefer, if you want to be correct about it. But I think they meet happenstancely. I'm going to go with that one. I think they meet happenstance. I said that like 4 times. I think they meet happenstancely, and I think that there is love, but there's like... I think that Rasputin is probably in this, from the song and the history, but more importantly the song, because I'm pretty sure this is in Russia. I know that there's a lot of snow. Okay, I think Rasputin is her dad, and I think he's like disapproving of this scoundrelly boy because he's too much like himself. But I think that they overcome this when he like saves her life because they try to like run away and they try to run away and something bad happens. But then it's like, okay, but you brought her back and you saved her life, and there's like bit where he like leaves because he's like, I'm not good enough for you, and then he comes back and she finds him, and that's when a bad thing happens and he saves her life, and so then that's when the dad is like, no, it's okay, you're chill, and then they get married, I'm gonna assume. Okay. Or one of them or both of them dies. Those are the possibilities here.
Either they live happily ever after, or it's a tragic love story, and there's lots of death.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
I'm hedging my bets. I've said a lot of things. I think some of them are going to be true.
Okay, so we will be back after this musical sting to tell you what we learned about Anastasia. Bye!
Bye!
Everybody, welcome back.
How did you like Anastasia?
If you watched it, that is.
I hope that you just told your podcast listening device how you liked it, because we can hear that.
Yep. We have very, very new special technology
Like, we're cutting edge over here.
Yes! Cutting edge. That's the word I couldn't think of in my head.
It's good.
Yes.
We're good at this.
State of the art. That's what I meant. We have new state-of-the-art technology.
New state-of-the-art cutting-edge technology.
Yes, that can do that.
We're ahead of other podcasters. This is what makes our podcast special.
There's even time travel involved because obviously you won't be listening to this as we're doing it, but it like transports your voice back in time.
Yeah. Little Billy, I'm glad that's what you thought of the movie.
I hope there's not children listening to this, despite the fact that we watched 2 children's movies.
No, it's an ironic name. It's a very large man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know.
Okay. So, anyway, we both watched Anastasia, and we are now back here to tell you what we thought of it. So the movie opens with the Russian royal family, the Romanovs, holding a ball.
There's like a weird aesthetic here because it's got a very Russian aesthetic, which I was right about. It is in Russia and it's in the snow, which is not the only thing I was right about. Like, spoilers for the next part of the podcast. But it's kind of got a weird, it's got the clearly an older animation style where the things in the background are much more detailed than the things in the foreground. And the background has this very cool Russian aesthetic, but then the foreground and the characters don't always. Like, in this, Anastasia, she's, like, looks very much like a stereotypical princess, and all the people are wearing very stereotypical, like the things that you'd see in Snow White or Sleeping...
Yeah.
They're the kind of, articles of clothing, and it doesn't feel like it fits together very well, particularly, like, the colors are really off. And it's kind of a weird thing that I noticed about the movie.
The colors are a little weird. I think the clothing style is a little bit closer to being sort of Russian royal court. I mean, I don't really know what that looks like, to be honest. But the colors they seem to
clash.
Yeah.
The background, I think, looks a lot better aesthetically than the foreground characters. Like that there was a lot more time and effort and thought put into the background than there were into the foreground, which I guess kind of makes sense, but even just design-wise, not just simplicity of animation.
And I think in the winter, people generally wore richer, darker tones rather than, like, a bright yellow dress.
Yeah, it's a weird choice that we both noticed.
Yeah. And so next, the Tsar's mom, who is Anastasia's grandmother, gives the then 8-year-old Anastasia a music box, and accompanied by a locket, and the locket is the key to make the music box play. And it says "Together in Paris" because she's telling her, hey, I'm going to take you with me to Paris, which she's always wanted from her grandma. And then everything goes badly. Because Rasputin shows
which
up.
I was right that Rasputin was in this, which is, I was shocked. I was like, amazed because I was joking when I said that. I was saying, like, the one other thing I knew about Russian history from a song, and I was 100% right.
That's great. He's definitely not her dad, though.
No, definitely not.
I mean, I know you knew you were wrong on that one, but he has been banished from the Russian court, I guess.
I don't know. It's very much the same plot as the beginning of Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
Where it's like...
Where he shows up and he's like, you've banished me and didn't invite me to this ball.
I hate
so
that.
I'll curse you. So, but the way
I hate not being invited to things.
The way he curses them is he actually sells his soul to some sort of demonic power. We don't get much background on what that demonic power is or what all his powers are that it gives him, but he has this cool little artifact thing.
Which looks very nice.
Yeah,
it does.
It does look really cool.
Pretty. The animation of, like, the small things is nice, like the music box and that, like, totem thing he has.
Yeah. Well, they give it kind of the 3D animation stuff because it's that era when they, like, put a little bit of 3D animation in there, but also classic. I always think of Tarzan. Yeah. When I think of this, where all the trees are, like, 3D and then it's, like, Tarzan and Jane and they're, like, bloop, right on the front and you're like, wait, what? I'm so confused. My brain doesn't know what to do with this image. And so he sells his soul in order to curse the Romanovs with this thing. But the way he curses them is by putting unrest in the people's hearts, and that's what causes the Russian Revolution?
I
mean, he could have just... That seems like a really roundabout way to do it.
I mean, it worked, though.
Yeah, sure, it did. And so then he goes in with a siege, and Anastasia and the grandma are the only survivors of the royal family because a little servant boy, who we later learn is named Dmitri, shows them a secret exit, and then they get out. And when the grandma goes to hop up on a train, Anastasia can't get her, and she hits her head, and it's kind of implied that that's how she gets her amnesia.
I did not realize that until...
Oh, really?
I did not realize she'd even had amnesia until she's like, I don't remember anything about my childhood. And I'm like, really? I did not realize that that's what happened.
Yeah.
There is a part where Rasputin, like, they're on, like, a frozen lake, and Rasputin, like, jumps off a bridge and, like, lands on the ice to try to grab him, but the ice breaks and he falls in, and we think he maybe dies.
Yeah, he definitely dies there, we find out later. I forgot to mention that. It's as he's chasing Anastasia and the grandma, because they are getting away, that, and he's like, oh, I'll take it in my own hands, because the people can't find them now. And then he dies.
Yeah, at this point, I'm very into Rasputin as a villain. I am a fan of villains and things, and, like, weird Lichy Warlock, who is very much my shit.
Yeah. I just wanted to talk briefly about how this movie lines up with the actual Russian Revolution. So, it's really interesting. This is set in 1916?
Yes.
But
I wrote that down.
But the actual Russian Revolution was technically two revolutions. They both happened in 1917 in February and October. In February, they overthrew the Tsar and his family. And then in October, they overthrew the provisional government, which was put into place as a kind of way to rule.
A provisional government.
Until they figured their shit out. But it was made up of noblemen and stuff like that. So eventually there came these Soviets, which is basically like small factions of people who had different ideas about how to rule. And after these revolutions, civil war broke out among the various Soviets. And there was the Bolsheviks, who most people have heard of, who were known as the Reds. And then the Whites, who were any non-Bolshevik Soviets. And it was in 1918 that the Bolsheviks killed the royal family. They didn't overthrow them and kill them all in one day. There was a long period of time in which the royal family, after the first revolution but before the second, they were put on house arrest to kind of protect them. But then when the Bolsheviks came into power in the second revolution, because they were the ones who came in and overthrew the provisional government, they were really strict with them. And then when the White Army came in to attack the Red Army, which was the Bolsheviks, they killed the royal family so they wouldn't be there by the time the White Army got there. And so they cut out a lot of stuff in the movie and simplify it a lot, which, I mean, it's a kid's movie. But also the Dowager Empress, the grandma, is there. She was not there when they killed them. She lived to be like 80 years old. We'll get into that later. Basically, it does not really line up at all.
Well, I kind of would have expected that, honestly.
Yeah, fair. I was not surprised that it didn't line up really at all. But I just think it's interesting how far off it was.
Yeah.
And
they didn't even get the year right.
Yeah, like, they could have at least been like, oh, in 1918. No, 1916, which wasn't even when the revolution happened.
Yeah, it's a bit
like,
weird.
It wasn't either of the important dates. But with these events where the Romanov family was actually killed in a basement, they were kind of rounded up and taken to the basement and then just straight up killed. One of the reasons that there were all these rumors that Anastasia was still alive is because when they found the mass grave that had the Romanovs in it, there was one of the daughters missing. They weren't sure which one, but a lot of people thought it was Anastasia because the other bodies looked like they were more mature skeletons. And Anastasia was the one who was only 17 at the time, and her sister was 19. And there's a lot of developmental differences that happen in bone structure in that time. And so they were missing her body. But then in 2007, they found it. So, yeah. But
she's also much older in real life than she was in this story when the thing happened.
Yeah. She's 8 years old when they come attack. And in real life, she was killed at 17.
Yeah,
So that's a big difference. Mm-hmm. She's closer to the age that she is in the main bulk of the story when she actually died.
Yeah.
Because she's 18 in the main bulk of the story, and she was 17 when the real Anastasia died. I think also what's really interesting is their choice to put Rasputin in the part of a villain, because the historical Rasputin was a friend of the Romanov family until the day he died.
Yeah, lover of the Russian queen.
Yes. There was a lot of controversy about him because he was very close with the Tsarina and with her daughters. And a lot of people thought that he was maybe kind of doing inappropriate things with them. One of their governesses actually complained that he was in the room when they were in their nightgowns and thought that that was extremely inappropriate. At the time, they were children, and so it's kind of debated whether he was actually a pedophile or whether he was just a nice family friend who was just close with the family and almost a second father figure or an uncle figure. But he was this kind of self-proclaimed holy man. Like, he didn't have any official positions in the Roman Catholic or Orthodox Church, but he was kind of just this spiritual holy man who they brought into the family to pray over their son, who was a hemophiliac. And then he became really close with the family, and then he was assassinated in 1916 by noblemen. So maybe that's where the date is from.
Oh, yeah.
It is actually when Rasputin died.
Oh, maybe maybe he's not upset because he wasn't invited to the party. Maybe he's upset because he was murdered by noblemen already. Maybe that's the implication, is that he was already murdered, and that's why he's mad at them, and that's why he already sold his soul.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Like, I'm dying,
But
I'll have my soul for this.
I definitely saw it as, like, I think the movie is not as clever as that would have been.
Oh.
I think that's very clever, but I think the movie was just like, oh, he was wronged. He's gonna come in and...
Yeah, I don't know. All I know
this
about
stuff.
Rasputin is the stuff from the song, and
Oh,
the fact
yeah.
that they tried to kill him a whole bunch of times and did a bad job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, he's very different in real life.
Mhm.
So, the
Not a
movie-
lich.
Yeah, not a lich. And
Or
also not...
Warlock might be more
Yes.
apropos.
I mean, kind of both.
Yeah.
So the movie then jumps forward 10 years to 18-year-old Anya, which is what Anastasia now goes by, leaving an orphanage that she's lived in. And she's going to find her family, and she doesn't remember who her family is.
That is
And-
not super made clear at this
Yeah,
point.
it kind of mentions it in the song that she sings there, but not in any of the dialogue.
Oh yeah, this is a musical,
really.
in case
Yeah.
you didn't know.
Oh yeah, there's actually one song before this. They do a brief little, have you heard there's a rumor in St. Petersburg? Have you
Oh, yeah.
heard what they're saying on the street?
I liked
Right.
this. That was.
Yeah,
I liked that song.
I like that song. I like the songs at the beginning of the show much better than the songs at the end.
I don't remember any of the songs very well. They
I
did
like-
not stick in my brain.
I like the St. Petersburg song, and I like the song she sings as she's going off on her own. Because she is singing this song about, like, going to find her family, and it's inspiring and cool, and it kind of sets you up for a cool adventure that you don't get as much as you'd want. And then she finds a puppy.
A very pointless puppy.
Yeah, I don't know why there's a puppy.
I honestly, like, it's not the, okay, it could be worse. There are even worse examples in this movie that we will get to, of, like, animal companions. But I kind of really came to hate the puppy, because Anastasia has very little agency in this movie. They just kind of have the puppy do things
Yeah.
for her.
It's either the puppy's doing something for her, or Rasputin is conning her into doing something.
And it's weird.
Or Dmitri is also conning her into doing
That's true.
something, which we'll get to.
He's the boy and the love interest.
Yeah. But as she's leaving, she's wearing this really iconic outfit that I always picture Anastasia in when I picture her.
This is a good outfit.
Yes. I love
Unlike
her
the
hair.
previous outfit, this is a good one.
Yes, yes. I love her hair. I love her, like, ragamuffin look in
Yeah, she's like
general.
in a ragamuffin. She's got like puffy overall pant things.
Yeah.
And like a hat. It's
like a big sweater.
It's a nice look.
And, like, little ankle boots that look like they've got lots of love in them.
Mm-hmm.
It just looks like a good traveling outfit. And
Yeah.
she looks like she could kick butt in that outfit, which she doesn't do a whole lot of.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, the music of the show kind of starts in this section, but I definitely think it's better at this point than it is later in the movie. Then you find out that Dmitri, who was the servant boy, and his friend Vlad are trying to con the Dowager Empress, who is the...
Vlad, he's like a nobleman, right?
Yeah,
Or used
he
to
was
be
one of the...
something.
Yeah, he was somehow associated with the royal court.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to con the Dowager Empress, who is the grandma, into believing that whoever they find is the real Anastasia.
Because the grandma's looking for
Mm-hmm.
Anastasia.
Because she remembers escaping with her and then her falling
Yeah.
off a train. What's interesting is the real Dowager Empress, while she was not there for the murder of the family, she believed until the day she died that the Bolsheviks were lying about killing the Romanov family. She believed that they had actually escaped Russia and that the Bolsheviks were covering their butts by saying they killed them.
Oh.
Yeah, until the day she died, which was not actually that long after they were killed. It was just a few years later. She believed that they had escaped. So,
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
I think...
there's like a truth there.
Yeah, she may have been looking for Anastasia. She may have been looking for all of them, to be honest. She believed all of them survived.
Yeah.
But then Anastasia, we cut back to her, and she is trying to get a travel visa because she wants to go to Paris, because that locket is her only clue about her family. It says together in Paris. So she goes to the palace to look for Dmitri, because she gets a clue that he'll be there, and that
He can give her fake papers.
He can give her fake papers.
And they're having like tryouts for Anastasia, and there's a gif there that I've definitely seen before,
Yeah.
where there's like a woman who's like wearing like a big fur coat, and she goes like, "Grandmama, it's me," and she throws it off and goes like, "Anastasia," and I've described the gif perfectly. So if you can't picture what if you can't exactly picture that there,
Then you have not seen that gif. Anyway, they see Anastasia when she comes in, and they look at her and they're like, oh my gosh.
she looks like the princess. She should be the princess.
She's like right by one of the portraits. And so they con her into actually believing that she is the princess.
Or I think it's vague. I think there's definitely an idea of she like they're talking around it where it's
Yeah.
like, well, you could be the princess. Well, I think that it could go either way, whether she's actually being conned into it, or she's like, or that she's in on it at this point.
Yeah.
But I think later it does become that she believes it, actually.
Yeah. I think at this point she's curious, and she thinks, well, if it's a chance to find my family, I'll go, and then I can see
It's a way
if
to Paris no matter what.
Exactly. And then this is the point when Rasputin finds out she's alive because his little bat sidekick sees her.
The worst character in this goddamn movie.
And as you were talking about terrible animal sidekicks before, this one is worse.
One, he talks.
Which there are some great talking animal sidekicks, but his voice is horrible.
He feels like his voice feels, and the way he talks feels like a stereotype. I don't know what stereotype, but it certainly feels like something.
Yeah, it just seems vaguely offensive.
It's just, he's the worst. He's just he's bad.
Yeah, he's very bad.
But we see him and the soul vial thing, and they get, like, pulled to a weird place.
Yeah, it rattles because it, like, senses Anastasia's aura or something.
Yeah, because it's in the castle for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And the bat is just sleeping with it, and he's like, my master's dead. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually pretty good. My master.
Yeah.
My master is dead.
That's what he sounds like.
It's the worst. So then he goes down to the underworld, not sure how. Oh, wait, no, I know how the bat gets there. The vial brings him.
Yeah, the vial, like, pulls him down.
Underground. And somehow he survives that, unluckily.
And Rasputin is there, dead, but alive, and bits of him fall off sometimes.
Yeah.
He's not as undead lichy as he could be, but that's the vibe he's got. And I'm still into it at this point. Not for very long, but...
And then he sings a song.
Not a great song.
In the dark of the night.
It's okay.
I don't like it very much.
It's a stereotypical villain song. There are bugs around for some weird reason that doesn't make any sense.
They just went for the yuck factor here.
Yeah, and it doesn't work.
They were trying to... I feel like they could not decide between making him, like, creepy magic and creepy because he's a corpse.
Yeah, and also there's, like, a fair amount of queer coding here, which is not ideal, as it's of the time and of the ilk of those Disney movies where you see that kind of thing, but he's, like, very obsessed with his appearance and, like, very over-dramatic.
Yeah.
And
flamboyant
there's
almost.
a bit in this song where he, like, puts on a wig and pretends to be Anastasia.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's not good. It's all around, it's bad.
Yeah.
There's also some, like, kind of icky mental illness stuff with Rasputin going on. Unstable villains can be really, really, really hard to do right without falling into tropes of, like, mental illness being evil and bad and also, like, kind of an unclear thing. And I think Rasputin kind of falls victim to that kind of thing and trying to make him scarier. For
sure. It's kind of like the same type of appeal of the scary insane asylum trope, where people who deal with mental illness are seen as insane in a way where they'll, like, attack you, or, like, as long as somebody has a mental illness, they'll just, like, be violent, which is... I mean, yeah, there are some mental health problems that can lead to violence, but the vast majority of people who suffer from mental health are not violent. And even those who are, it's not like, I'm a scary, spooky villain who's evil. It's like, well, no, they just have a disease.
This is something that I deal with.
Yeah.
Manage. And it's just all around Rasputin is not handled well. It's just ick on, like, most levels.
Agreed. And the next scene we have is the trio going on a train. And they're going to be heading towards Paris. And so while they're on the train, there's this one scene that kind of stuck out to me where she says something about thinking for herself and he says, oh, I hate that in a woman. And it's like, okay, well, I get that he's just saying that specifically to mess with her and to be a jerk, but it's just weird and sexist.
Yeah.
And why?
Yeah.
Why are we supposed to like him? So as they're on the train, Rasputin sends his little demons from his vial to derail the train. And
this is the scene that I mentioned, where there's a scene where they're keeping track of who has the most quips in.
Oh, yeah.
This happens on the train. It wasn't a carriage, it was a train. But I did remember this scene existing.
Yes, it was on the train, and Vlad is keeping track, and Anastasia is totally kicking Dimitri's butt.
Yeah. Before Rasputin sends the things, though, they also realize that their boarding passes are the wrong color.
That's right.
Because they're faked boarding passes.
You're right. So they realize that their boarding passes are the wrong color, and they're kind of in a panic about that. But before that can be resolved in any way, Rasputin sends demons from his little vial to derail the train. And they narrowly escape with their lives, with some clever, like, jumping off the train. And
so it's a passable action sequence.
Yeah, exactly. And it's pretty cliche, that scene where characters have to jump off a moving train and roll and that kind of thing.
Yeah. At this point, I am not on board with Dimitri's and Anastasia's relationship. I
Yeah.
feel like they don't actually like each other.
No, they don't. And it's supposed to be that kind of cliche of like, oh, well, love and hate are really similar emotions.
No, but it just feels like they hate each other.
Yeah, it really just feels like they don't like each other. There doesn't seem to be any chemistry at this point, even though Vlad keeps teasing Dimitri about it. It's like, no, he doesn't seem like he likes her. He really seems like he just finds her very annoying.
Yeah, neither of them are like...
Yeah. So then they get on a boat to go the rest of the way. I'm not sure
They walk. From the train, they walk.
Yeah, they walk for a very long time.
And there's a song.
And there's a song where they're teaching her how to be a royal.
Yeah, which is part of why I think that she's more in on it, is because they're teaching her, like, because the fact that they're teaching her how to be a royal is like, here's, like, all the, like, things you need to know, like, since you don't already know them, because you would already know them.
It's interesting that she goes along with that, because it kind of seems like she later is upset that it was a con. But it's like, okay, well, it seems like you were in on it. Are you just stupid?
I don't know. It's weird.
Like, it doesn't seem... They don't really make it clear whether she's in on it or not. They make it seem like she's not, but then why would they be teaching her all this stuff? Wouldn't she be questioning that? Like, well, can't I just tell her I got amnesia? Like, if this is true, then this is true. So then they walk for a very long time, and they ride horses, and they do all this stuff.
It's a montage.
And then they get to a boat. I'm not sure what route they're taking to get to Paris that needs a boat.
Yeah.
But they get on like a big ship, like a passenger ship. And I think the weirdest thing about this ship is it seems like they're the only people on it. You don't see any people in the background, but it's a big ship, like a big passenger ship, kind of. Or maybe it's a cargo boat. Is it a cargo boat?
It could be. They are trying to, like, sneak and stuff.
Yeah, it does not make it clear what this boat is or why they're there.
It's only so that they can have this dramatic scene where Rasputin, like, magics Anastasia in her sleep.
Yeah.
And for her to, like, think that she's walking along, but she's going to jump off the boat.
But before that happens... Dimitri buys Anastasia a nice new dress so that she'll look pretty for the Empress, look more like a princess, and she changes here, and her hair grows like a whole foot.
It's weird. It's just weird, and it's also a worse outfit than the one she was wearing.
Yeah.
Like, the other thing she looked cute in, this is just, like, this, like, a stereotypical outfit.
Yeah, and... Don't get me wrong, I think it's a cute dress and I would totally wear it, but it does not fit with her.
Also, it's not interesting. Like, you had, like, an interesting outfit and you, like, have people who look, like, a specific way, and just aesthetically, it doesn't fit with anything. And there are better outfits later that are used in a song that aren't used for anything, just for, like, a split second you see them, and you're like, why didn't she wear that in the first place?
And so then, in her new dress, they practice dancing. And I have a few comments here about Dimitri's face. The way they animate his face really bothers me. It just looks weird the whole time.
He's just a weird look. Like, I didn't realize he was the same boy as before for a while, because he doesn't look like him at all. He also looks like a background character. He's super generic looking. He looks like the character that would be in the background, not like the main character.
He's generic looking, and yet at the same time, they keep changing the shape of his face.
Yeah.
Like, it keeps changing so that it looks really awkward and lumpy. And I don't like it at all. It just makes me uncomfortable that it keeps changing. And then, of course, in this scene where they're dancing... They, like, fall in love, question mark?
It's bad.
So it's in this scene, there's a song that Vlad sings, like, I never should have let them dance, because now they're falling in love, and that complicates things. But they didn't seem to like each other at all up until this point, and suddenly they're smitten.
It barely even feels like they're smitten.
Yeah. It's like everyone in the background is like, oh, they're so in love.
They're telling us they're in love, they're not showing us that they're in love.
Yeah. It's kind of like it would almost seem like they hired two actors who have no chemistry, except they could have drawn the chemistry, and they just didn't. Like, they hired an animator who had no ability to draw chemistry.
It's weird.
I don't know. But then, that's when Rasputin tries to drown Anya by giving her, like, weird dreams.
I think he, like, pretended in the dream he's, like, her father, and he, like... There's a neat bit where she's like, it's like a pretty meadow, and he like dives into a spring, and she's on the top of a cliff, and he's like dive into the spring, and it looks more and more like Rasputin, and it's neat. And she's like walking to the edge of the ship.
And she's standing on the edge of the ship, and then Dimitri wakes up because the dog wakes him up.
Yeah, the dog wakes him up.
Of course, the dog has to save her. It's literally the dog's only purpose is to either endanger her or save her life. In random places. So then Dimitri goes and, like, grabs her before she can drown. Then they get to Paris, and they meet with Sophie, who is the Empress's cousin, but also is Vlad's lady love.
I like how you said that.
Yes. And I really like Sophie.
Yeah, it's a nice, like, side characters, like, coupling off in a way that doesn't feel super forced. And
Yeah.
Like,
they make a much cuter couple.
they're the real, can we just have a movie about them instead?
They're the real
I don't care about
OTP.
Anastasia.
And she tells them that, unfortunately, the Empress is not seeing any more girls because she's been...
Scorned too many times.
Yes. I've been burned before. She doesn't say that. That's not her.
You say that.
Yeah.
We say that.
And then she quizzes her anyway because she's like, well, you do really look like her. And she knows about the escape route that Dimitri showed her, even though Dimitri never told her about this.
And then Dimitri is like, oh, the escape route. I remember that I was there too. Because he didn't remember that he was there. Because he could have told her about that, and that was an important thing.
Yeah.
But he didn't remember that.
Yeah, and then suddenly he remembers. And
there's a lot of amnesia in this.
Yeah, he realizes that she's the real Anastasia. And so when they go to meet the Empress at the opera, he confronts her and tries to tell her, like, hey, I found the real Anastasia. But she recognizes Dimitri as a con man. And Anya overhears this conversation and she's really upset.
Yeah, and this is where, like, miscommunication is, like, the plot point, because she only hears the end of the conversation and thinks that, like, Dimitri is, like, just trying to con them and doesn't believe. Yeah. Doesn't like her or believe her, which is it's weird, and it's the miscommunication is the plot point, and it's bad. Yeah.
But the Dowager Empress is super cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really she's like a cool old lady. It's nice to see main, like, authority figure isn't like a dad. Mm-hmm. It's nice that it's like someone else, because in most children's media with like a princess thing, it's always like the dad. Yeah. And it's cool that this isn't the dad.
Yeah, it's a cool, powerful older woman. Uh-huh. And they're not usually well represented in media. And even though she doesn't have a lot that she does, everything she does is pretty cool. Yeah. But then Dimitri's not giving up, so he kidnaps the Dowager Empress. Oh, yeah. It pretends to be the chauffeur, and he forces a meetup with Anya. And that's when Anya, like, kind of remembers. But there's also, like, the music box that she has the key to, so the Empress is like, oh, of course it's you.
It's enough to make the Empress believe.
Yes. And then there's this kind of sweet moment where they reunite. Then Dimitri refuses the reward when the Dowager Empress offers it to him. Yeah. Which is, like, the only good thing he does.
I mean, it's not even, like, that much of a good thing. Like, if you need the money, take the money.
Yeah. Yeah, he refuses the reward.
You didn't con her. You honestly got the money. You did the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a ball to honor Anastasia, and she has yet another dress.
Also not a very good dress.
No.
I liked she wears like two kind of flapper dresses in one of the song montages that are both really good and fit really well with the aesthetic of the songs.
When they first meet up with Sophie and she takes them shopping, I forgot to say, Sophie takes them shopping. Yeah. When she decides that they're going to go to the opera so they can find a good outfit for Anya.
Yeah, she wears one dress that is like a sleeveless turtlenecky thing with like a shawl. Yeah. And like it's like a flapper dress with like frills at the bottom. And then she wears one that is like one of those, like, dresses that have, like, the triangles on.
Yeah, the little, like, feathered look at the bottom, almost.
It's like one long triangle in the middle, and then two, like, long triangles on the side. And it's, like, another, like, flapper-style dress. Mm-hmm. And both of those were really cute, but they were, like, barely used. And, like, they fit way more aesthetically with what was going on, rather than
with the era, because it's supposed to be in the 20s.
Yeah, she wears these... It's weird how, like, on one side, like, when she's in her more masculine clothes and those flapper outfits, the aesthetic is, like, so on point there, and then she's got these very boring dresses that she wears that don't really fit with any of the other aesthetic going on or anyone else's outfit. It's just, like, her and her dad both wear those, and that's, like, it.
Yep. Even the Dowager Empress has cooler dresses.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, after he refuses the reward, they have a ball to honor Anastasia, obviously, because the long-lost princess has returned. But while they're at this ball... Anastasia follows her puppy outside into the garden.
I thought it's a trap, obviously. It's a trap. I thought the puppy was going to be the terrible bat Bartok, which the bat's name is Bartok, in disguise, which is a good name. It's still a terrible bat. Yes. But it wasn't. It was just the puppy running out there for no reason into this terrible trap.
Yes. I think maybe it was, like, lured somehow, but, like,
that's
why
not made clear.
Yeah, and if you're going to do that, just lure Anastasia. Why use the dog?
It's weird. It doesn't make sense.
The dog is useless once again.
But they end up on a bridge, and Rasputin is there, and Anastasia is there, and this is the sort of climax moment.
Yeah, and Dimitri comes back to save her, but almost immediately gets knocked out.
Yeah, he gets into a fight with a statue.
Yeah.
A statue of a horse.
Yeah, that it gets animated by the spirits. I still don't know what all his powers are.
I think he just has, like, general, I've got all the powers, anything I can think of thing.
Yeah, but he's just apparently really bad at just killing one person.
Well, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
I do like that this fight is between Rasputin and Anastasia. It's kind of like it's a slap fight. It's not super. Neither of them are fighters. He's like a mage, and she's like not trained in fighting at all. And so it's like a grimy slap fight, which I was kind of into.
Yeah, I think this fight is one of the highlights of the movie, especially since this is a moment where Anastasia does have agency. Mm-hmm. She saves herself, and she saves Dmitri. And she's the one who physically crushes his magical vial thing.
Which murders him.
Yes.
And the animation on his death was really cool. It's like sort of melty and green, and you can see his skeleton, and it's a very nice animation, and kind of a lot of a spooky thing for like a children's movie. But it was good. I liked it.
I think this is a good moment to talk about how useless Rasputin is.
He's so useless. He's the most. Him and Bartok, the horrible bat, they don't do anything useful.
No, the plot would be exactly the same without them.
Yeah, because they do two things. One, they disrupt the train. They already had to get off the train because their tickets were the wrong kind. So and once they get off the train, they just walk and have zero problem.
Yeah, they could have gotten kicked off the train. Instead of, because of their tickets, instead of having to jump off of it, it would have been the same.
Or they were planning on sneaking off anyway, and then the only other thing he does is this fight, which he loses horribly.
Yeah. And he starts the Russian Revolution, which you could have just had the people
I guess he also tries to get her to walk off the boat, but he did a bad job there, too.
Also, you could just have Anastasia sleepwalk. People sleepwalk.
Also, you didn't need that scene at all.
No, you didn't. But and then the first thing he ever does is start the Russian Revolution, which, okay, there are so many reasons why that started that you could have just used. He sows unrest in the minds of the people. How about the people just had unrest? That just happens.
People tend to not like authority.
Yeah.
Especially when the authority is shitty and...
Yeah. And so much richer than they are when they're, living in squalor.
Yeah, it's not hard. Revolutions happen.
Yeah. You didn't need a weird villain to explain it. He's very useless. I don't know why he's there.
Me neither.
And then the movie ends with Anastasia going and talking to her grandmother, and her grandmother basically says, hey, if you love this boy, go get him. And then they elope.
And she's like, he didn't take the reward.
Oh,
so
yeah.
No, he's a good guy.
Yeah. And then she's like, what? He didn't? I thought this whole time he would. And then they elope. Mm-hmm. And Sophie's like, oh, they eloped, how romantic. And I really don't think eloping is that romantic.
Not really.
Personally. It's kind of just like, let's run away and get married with just us.
It's just, it's not particularly romantic.
Yeah. And then they kiss on a boat. Oh, and then the bat finds a lady.
Yeah, the last scene in the movie is because in the final battle, the bat betrays Bartok the bat, the horrible bat, betrays Rasputin and is like, no, I don't want any part of this. And he doesn't help or anything, but he leaves.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, we see him there, and a lady bat comes up to him and is like, because of course, now that he's a good guy, we gotta make sure everyone knows the bat is heterosexual.
Yes.
No questions here. Good guy bat, heterosexual.
Yes.
And gets a woman as a prize.
Yes.
Prize for being a good guy, being a heterosexual, and getting a woman.
I feel weirdly uncomfortable about this bat. She's objectified in a way that none of the other female characters are.
It's really weird. She has bat titties, which is weird.
She has this weird hourglass figure and eyelashes and lipstick, and she just comes up and kisses him and then saunters off with her hips swaying. And he follows her. And it's like, I guess they're gonna go make bat babies now?
It's very weird.
Yeah. Very, very weird.
The worst character.
In my research, I found out that this film is actually based off of an older film from the 50s, which I found very interesting. Yes, a live-action film that is also called Anastasia from, I think, 1956. Somewhere in there. Somewhere in the 50s. And I think that explains a lot of why Rasputin is such a useless villain, because he is pretty much the one thing that gets added to this movie. And so they really did just force him in there, because other than that, the plot is pretty much the same. It's about a woman named Anna who has amnesia and is also suicidal, though. Oh. So there's that, which is darker. 10 years have also passed in this movie, but in this movie, she was a teenager when she either died or went missing. And so there's this refugee, Anna, who turns up in Paris, and she has a lot of similarities to the Princess Anastasia, and they have to figure out if she's just a recovering amnesiac with a striking resemblance. That's straight from Wikipedia. or if she's actually Anastasia. And so she ends up finding this guy, and they go try to get the reward from the Dowager Empress, and they get along when she meets the Empress, and then there's a ball, and then she elopes with the guy who wanted to get the reward. And so it's basically the same plot, except without Rasputin, which explains why he seems so forced.
Yeah, so extraneous.
Yeah, he really just was shoved in there. And this movie was actually based on a play.
Oh.
And the play was loosely inspired by a woman named Anna Anderson, who was one of the most famous people to claim to be the Princess Anastasia. So Anna Anderson was this woman who was mentally not well, and also had either amnesia or was delusional. They're not quite sure, I don't think. But Anna Anderson claimed to be Anastasia. And for a while, people thought she was. Some of the surviving relatives said she looked enough like her that they believed she was Anastasia. Others believed she was a con. But basically, eventually, she was identified as a Polish factory worker who had a history of mental illness. They did some DNA testing after this woman died, and then when they found the actual grave of the Romanov family, they did the DNA there, didn't match hers at all. Everything kind of proved that she was not really Anastasia. But she claimed to be Anastasia, and she had amnesia or some sort of mental illness. Mm-hmm. And so because of this, it inspired the story that
Anastasia
became a
survived.
Play. Yeah. There was already a lot of other people claiming to be Anastasia, but this inspired the play, which inspired the 1956 movie, which inspired the movie that we watched. So it's like 3 iterations down from a real person who wasn't even Anastasia.
Good.
So that's why this movie is
the way it is.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Mm-hmm. So now that we've gone through the movie, do you have an overall feelings you want to go through?
I wouldn't watch this again, and I wouldn't recommend it to other people, but it wasn't, like, awful. It was a movie that I watched, and I didn't have a bad time.
Yeah. I always think I love this movie until I watch it, and then I'm like, I don't actually love this movie. I really like the music.
Which is weird, because I don't remember any of it, and thought it was very unmemorable.
Yeah. I think I just like certain songs. There aren't that many. Mm-hmm. But there are a few I don't like. I don't like Rasputin's song. I don't like the song that they sing when they fall in love. But the others I like. There are only like 3 others.
So you like about half the song.
Yeah, pretty much. And I like the concept of the story. Mm-hmm. But the execution is bad.
Yeah.
It's really not great. Okay. Favorite part of the movie?
Rasputin conceptually. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of like a lichy, sort of warlocky, very passionate villain. It's like I said at the beginning, he was very much my shit for like the very beginning of the movie. Yeah. I was like, ooh, this is a villain I can get behind. Yeah. Because I'm definitely into villains. Like they're my favorite most of my favorite characters are at least assholes, if not straight up villains. So,
they are more interesting a lot of the time.
Yeah. So if I think he'd just been handled a little... Him conceptually is my favorite thing, because I think if he was handled better, it would have been good.
Yeah. It's almost like they just put him in the wrong movie.
Yeah.
Like, because they really did. They just shoved him in a different movie that was kind of a romantic drama. Not really comedy, just
a romantic movie.
Romantic drama, yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What was your favorite thing?
My favorite thing about this movie is the music. And also just the beginning. Like, it starts off a lot better than it ends. I really like Anya's first outfit and the way that she's starting to go off on this journey, and then she just doesn't have a plan, and everybody else makes her decisions for her.
Do you have a favorite song?
Favorite song? Probably the song she sings about going out on her journey. Yeah.
I don't remember it, but that's okay. I believe you.
It's Journey to the Past. That's what it's called. Okay, least favorite part.
Misuse of Rasputin, basically the same part as my thing. Like, if you're gonna, it would be better to just not have a villain than to have a mismanaged villain. And it just bad all around. The queer coding was bad. The mental illness stuff was bad. The like uselessness was bad. I don't like comic relief villains. I think are very hard to do right. There's some that I love, but like they need to be paired with actual scary villains, or they need to be comic relief but still actually scary, or they need to be managed in the appropriate way, and this was not it. Yeah. Especially that horrible, horrible, horrible bat.
Yes. Your least favorite bat.
My least favorite bat. List of bats, very bottom.
Freaking Bartok.
Bartok.
Worst bat. So my least favorite part is pretty much the same thing. I remember the very first time I saw this movie, I was like, this movie would be exactly the same without the villain, and I don't like him. Conceptually, he is really cool. But just everything that they do with him is wrong.
It's just, liches and just... I'm just like angry. I'm just angry thinking about it.
Okay, who is your favorite character?
I guess it was Rasputin, but only because all the other characters were boring, and I just liked him conceptually. I like a weird lich, and even though he queer coding was shitty, that also tends to make me like characters more. Which, you know how it is.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I guess it's Rasputin. Even though, this is a process of elimination. Least favorite, most least. The best one of the bunch.
Yes.
Not actually a character I liked.
So my favorite character is probably Sophie, actually. She's not in there very long, but she has a lot of character and a lot of spunk, and she's interesting as a person. I also really like the Dowager Empress, and I like Anastasia at the beginning of the movie. I like her first scene. If she had stayed with all her spunk and attitude, then she probably would have been my favorite character, but she just kind of gets pushed to the side, which is weird because the movie is named after her.
Yeah, bummer that.
Yeah. What was the most unexpected thing?
I guess it was Anastasia at the beginning. I was not expecting her to be spunky in general at all, and it was a nice change of pace. And it's hard to say that was a good thing considering it didn't last.
Yeah.
But I was not expecting that outfit and her spunkiness and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was into it when it was there.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair. I think the most unexpected thing when I first watched this movie was the fact that the villain was useless. I was expecting him to play a bigger role in the furthering of the plot. I know growing up, I didn't watch this movie because my parents really didn't like how creepy the villain was. He was just a little bit too dark for them to feel comfortable letting me watch the movie.
And you were a bit of a scaredy cat.
Fair. Yeah, fair. Also,
we both are a bit of a scaredy cat.
He's a decomposing dead body, and his song is pretty creepy and gross. Like you talked about, the bugs that are just
They're
there.
Just random bugs for no reason. They're just these Technicolor bugs that are there for no reason.
They just went for the yuck factor. I think they're supposed to be there because he's a decomposing body, but
They're not in his body.
No.
They're just near him.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe he summons them?
He doesn't even look that decomposing. It's just some of his bits fall off sometimes.
Yeah. But then he can, suck them back in.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, maybe
Which seems like a useful skill.
He has the power to summon bugs, and
summoning.
He wanted them for...
Bugomancer.
Rasputin, the Bugomancer, and his dumb sidekick.
Bartok, the horrible bat.
Yeah, it's really bad. Well, I'm glad we got to watch this movie together.
Yeah, it was an experience. It's a thing that we did.
Yep. I may not ever watch this movie again after talking about it this much in depth, because I think it's now solidified in my mind that I don't actually like this movie that much.
Good to know.
Whereas before I would watch it every once in a while and be like,
it's fine.
It's not as good as I remember. I will still definitely listen to my favorite songs from it, though.
That's fine, though.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that's the end of this episode.
Yep. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you all for listening. You can follow us on Twitter at Cousin Osmosis. Also, exciting news, next episode. Woo!
Ooh, yeah. What's it gonna be?
We're gonna watch Sky High!
A movie which I have not seen.
I have seen it.
Yep, which is kind of surprising because I love Disney. I've just seen almost none of the Disney Channel original movies.
Yeah, well, we'll get to talk about Sky High, a movie that I really liked as a kid and we'll see if it holds up.
Yep. All right, see you next week.
See you next time. Bye.